When the crisis first began, many people lost their jobs or saw their income take a notable hit. And many of those who didn't have savings quickly fell behind their bills, including their rent payments. Now that there's no longer an eviction moratorium in place, tenants who are behind on rent are desperate to get caught up to avoid losing their homes. But those who have yet to apply for federal rent relief funds may be out of luck. Unfortunately, that's not the case for many residents in the state of Connecticut. The state says it will continue to process existing applications for rent relief until it runs out of money. But those who don't have a pending application can no longer access the federal funding. And that doesn't mean all Connecticut residents who need help are out of luck. Residents of New Haven can turn to a separate program for aid, and those who qualify may be in line for the $12,000 in assistance. The city of New Haven is continuing to offer rental assistance through a castle program. This program still has $213,000 in funding. According to a city spokesperson, those who apply for aid through this program can receive up to $12,000 to cover past due rent, but funds owned prior to March 2020 don't qualify for this incentive. Tenants who wish to apply for assistance through the Castle program must meet the following criteria. They must have an income that does not exceed 80% of the area's median income, and they must have proof of income, loss, or disruption during the crisis. So if you're a New Haven resident who is yet to financially recover from the financial blows of the crisis, don't worry, because you can still apply and receive some federal rent relief on time. Now, I definitely suggest applying for relief before funds run out, everybody. House Democrats have introduced multiple proposals aimed at sending direct payments to Americans to help cover high prices of gas. The plans have some similarities to the one that sent $1,400 stimulus checks to millions of people last year. The national daily average has been more than $4 per gallon for 2 weeks. AAA cited lower crude oil prices as one reason for the slight price drop at the pump since last week. It also said demand for gas is down, which is typical for this time of year, and may be a sign of people changing their driving habits. Peter DeFazio announced the Stop Gas Price Gouging Tax and Rebate Act. The bill does not use a national gas price average as a measuring stick, but does call for households to receive a monthly advance tax credit similar to last year's monthly child tax credit. The money would come from taxing oil companies for what DeFazio calls excessive corporate profits. In a press release, DeFazio stated, Big Oil will pay a one-time 50% windfall profit tax on any adjustable taxable income in 2022 that exceeds 110% of their average adjusted taxable income during pre-crisis levels between 2015 and 2019. The extra tax would actually hit large oil companies that produce or import at least 300,000 barrels of oil per day, or did in 2019. Democratic Representative O'Connor of California is one of the two main sponsors, said the companies, and will owe a per-barrel tax equal to 50% of the difference between the current price of a barrel of oil and the pre-crisis average price per barrel between 2015 and 2019. So, I hope President Biden can definitely do what he promised to the American people and send out the fourth stimulus check and Social Security benefits. If you guys agree, tell me in the comments down below if you think that President Biden can get the job done.
Such that it causes a recession, because indeed we think the Fed does not necessarily want to undo all the good work it has done in terms of achieving full employment.
Mike, I wanted to give you a minute to just look through the market reaction to some of these things. Knee-jerk reaction is that the markets are still down, but not by as much, the equity market, as much as we were previously. I haven't seen where the 10-year stands right now. Maybe people are just kind of thinking this through at this point.
Yeah, I think at least, if nothing else, it was the absence of a new negative, which I think would have been a hotter number. PPI is, has implications certainly for things like corporate profit margins, but not always the biggest market mover. You can kind of treat it as a Rorschach test. People can see the idea that we have reached peak inflation in this number because of the small month-on-month decline, same as CPI. But on the other hand, what's the destination in terms of how fast it might decline from here, assuming it continues to? So right now, I still think we're in suspense about whether you can take heart in the peak inflation story. The market really craves confirmation of that. This month only gave you sort of half the helping of evidence that you'd want to see in that direction.
Jared, how do you see this Rorschach test?
Well, I love the pig and the snake analogy, because I think this pipeline of inflation that's coming through, while it's possible to argue that some of these very small peaks we're getting in consumer data this week and producer data, the prices are still rising. If they're not rising as fast as they were before, that's arguably good news. But the fact that prices are still rising incredibly quickly is a big problem for markets. It's one of the reasons why for several months we've been suggesting that investors maintain higher levels of cash, more dry powder ahead of volatility and what we think will be much better buying opportunities later this year.
So you think there's still a lot more room to
Channel and give this video a like. On this channel, I always do my best in providing you with the most up-to-date and reliable stimulus check information. So be sure to subscribe, everybody. Now, the text of the bipartisan infrastructure package, which has officially been named the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, has yet to be released. Folks, this bill might include a fourth stimulus check and an increase in your Social Security benefits. So we're hoping that Congress does approve this bill. But with debate over the proposal beginning in the Senate, details over what Democrats and Republicans agreed to are trickling out. The debate officially started in the Senate after a procedural vote took place on July 28th. President Biden wrote in a Twitter post, "We have reached a historic deal on infrastructure, folks. The bipartisan infrastructure deal is the largest infrastructure bill in a century. It will grow the economy, create good-paying jobs, and set America on a path to win the future." So what do you think about President Biden, everybody? Is he doing all that it takes to send out the fourth stimulus check? Or do you believe that he's taking too long to increase your Social Security benefits? Leave a comment down below, everybody. Tell me your thoughts on President Biden. Now, in late April, President Biden released his American Jobs Plan, a proposal focused on rebuilding the nation's infrastructure and improving working conditions across the economy. The White House has stated that the plan would invest $2 trillion over 10 years and focus on three major areas: investments in physical infrastructure, improvements to working conditions for those in the care economy, and righting the injustices of past housing. Now, investments focused in physical infrastructure like roads and bridges also included funding to increase the resilience of the nation's transportation system and energy grid to climate change, provisions to improve access to clean water and reduce air, and other forms of environmental pollution were also included. The American Jobs Plan had also included the extension of benefits to workers of the care economy. The bill had also included measures that would send aid to communities who were broken up or left out of major infrastructure projects. Folks, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act is smaller and neither completely eliminated or cut funding significantly for many of these initiatives. For example, of the $111 billion the American Jobs Plan allocated for water infrastructure, only $50 billion was included in the bipartisan package.
Republicans and some Democrats came up with a brilliant idea for cutting cost of living adjustments for Social Security. We said it will be over our dead bodies if you cut Social Security. As president, I will do everything I can to extend the solvency of Social Security.
Bernie Sanders was just on the Senate floor, and he was blasting Mitch McConnell about the debt ceiling and not raising the debt ceiling. Now, every few years, the Republicans, Democrats, whoever is in charge, one party doesn't like. One party says they're not going to raise the debt ceiling. The other party says we need to raise the debt ceiling. Right now, the Democrats are in the lead as far as the votes, so they're saying let's